Buenas tardes.
Hello and good afternoon. We are gonna start with the first conference of the cycle, Programa Abierto Open Program 2022. And we have just seen the first audiovisual piece of Matter Forest, which is precisely what we're going to be displaying throughout the following days. All conferences are going to be preceded by an audiovisual piece related to forest and nature. And as you have seen, with dance in some occasions, what we have seen, the dialogue with a tree, belongs to Rouge Elea Company, which is a company in the Basque country. The language you heard was Basque. The piece dates from 2019. Conversations with a Tree is poetry and image. And it says, it's quite likely that at the end of this journey, you will all find yourself laying under the tree while you ask yourselves, am I nature? Is there an animal sleeping within me? It's quite curious, but I have the feeling I can feel the tree grow. For 15 years, Corinne Sela hangs herself from trees and dances. Ander Fernandez has been scratching the wood of his guitar, and together they launch a poetic debate with trees. And now we will hear Benedetta Tagliabue, and her presentation will be Inspiration in Architecture through Beauty. In this edition, we are going to be speaking about beauty. We're going to be discussing about beauty from different perspectives, from different approaches that one can find regarding beauty. On Mondays, we'll be discussing through architecture. On Wednesdays, it will be through art, dance, philosophy, history of architecture. This will be on Wednesdays, right? We'll also have a conference by Suzuki, who will be presenting the exhibition that we are hosting here in the USPC. And this is, well, the open program for 2022. I hope you're going to enjoy it. The topic of today's debate with Benedetta is how architecture reflects complexity, its colors, its matters, its smells, its odors, and how are all these elements harmonized in one single spot, in one single period. Is harmonization a quest for beauty? We'll be precisely presenting Benedetta's study and some examples of her projects in different stages to carry out research on the topic and opening a debate about her study. We can say that it's an internationally acknowledged study. I am sure you all know it. It was funded in 1994 by Miralles in Barcelona. And today they work all around the world. Nonetheless, the office has kept an open approach and a high degree of willingness to experience and experiment. The work reflects about changing the environment while paying attention to reality and respecting traditional cultures. So, Benedetta, we are extremely pleased to hand it over to you so you can show us a little bit more about this project. Thank you. Thank you very much, Andrea. Thank you very much for your presentation, and good afternoon, one and all. I am extremely pleased and thrilled to be here with you in Ulot with our friends from RCR. whom I admire, and they have an amazing capacity to produce beauty. And in this fantastic venue where I know you are carrying out research about how to penetrate the fageda, the forests. So you are somehow embedded with beauty. And the topic that brings us here today and that Andrea suggested is extremely dear to me. For me, it's difficult sometimes to speak about beauty. Yesterday, I underwent an experience which was quite transformative, actually, very transformative. And it has nothing to do with our work, which I'm gonna. Yesterday, I visited the foundation of Ansel Kiefer, and it was transformative, groundbreaking. I experienced a shock. I experienced an artistic thunderstorm yesterday. And I remember some of the elements. Well, if you tell Ansel that he likes what he does, don't ever tell him it's beautiful because he will be extremely offended. Ansel considers beauty to correspond to the moment, right? To the right action in a specific moment. And I believe this approach to be just groundbreaking, excellent. But of course, I am very fond of beauty. Recently, we have been in the Spanish Academy in Rome, a wonderful space where we were offered the possibility to exhibit our work and to focus on our relationship with history in this lovely environment where Bramante's work is preserved, one of the most emblematic pieces of architecture since Renaissance, right? So we did an effort here and we came up with this crazy approach in the Renaissance patio. And we broadcasted our work here, and even the montage was part of the work, right? And we interact, we somehow made our work interact with the windows of the Spanish Academia. Through the windows, you can see the amazing views. And well, it's like tonight, right? We present our work, our projects, and we try to convey a certain sense of continuity or narrative. For me, in this case, it's more about history, about heritage, about what Rome has to offer to the world, which is the world capital of architectural heritage and human heritage that little by little has become the forum for educating architects, artists, all those who have to push forward art, to change art. Rome is somehow the place to learn, and it's the place where many academies flourish, right? If you are in Rome, you just transform yourself. So in this place in Rome, we have responded to the desire of presenting our architecture, especially what has to do with history. And we realize, as you can see here in the background, there's a paper, a wallpaper, and the wallpaper is our home. And our home is where we realize that we've done and underwent an incredible effort to learn about beauty and to learn about the relationship with history. And it's where we've learned how things correspond to a specific moment and to your privacy, right? The home becomes the model. The home becomes somehow, I realized that the home somehow is the work underneath many other works. And it has to do with our history, and it has to do with our attempt to domesticate public works, for example. When I say domesticate, it means for me feeling at home, feeling at ease. So all the experiments will it in our home has been somehow transferred to public works, so that public works are perceived as more natural, as being, let's say, closer to human beings. And I believe that the feeling of being close one to another, the feeling of being like at home, feeling like at home somewhere, is extremely important. And it's perhaps what we aim at every time we do architecture. You've seen our home in these images. Our home was in ruins in the city center of Barcelona. We decided to live inside the ruins. And these ruins had a lot to offer, like these Gothic arches, which were behind a fake wall, or perhaps some of the ceilings that were smashed, and we recovered, right? And rediscovered. We rediscovered the past, all the humans who lived in this home before us and who had been hiding for a while. And of course, we tried and share our table inside this crazy house, or our studio, and the little machine that somehow helps you work, or the lamp, right? Trying to live together with all this history. Here is a picture of Enric. It's always very nice to remember him, even if it's been 22 years that Enric is not with us anymore and doesn't live in this home anymore. But we did this home together, so we discovered this home together, and that's why I want to pay tribute to him. We discovered the possibility to do architecture with even thinking about it. These are some of the drawings that we found on the wall. I always say that the house, I mean, we didn't want to publish any picture of the house. This is one of the few sketches we have of the house. And, well, at the end of the day, we've published quite a lot about the house. I believe that it's precisely due to the fact that we did it. We produced this house without thinking that someone would be interested about it, made us feel a little bit more relaxed, right? And doing more like crazy and interesting things with it. Now, let me do a little bit of marketing here. Quite recently, Apple TV came to me and asked to launch a home program in our house. And even if my children were quite reluctant, my son told me, well, you do it, but don't ask my permission because I'm never going to give it to you. I hate commercial things. My daughter told me, okay, I'll help you. I'll be near you, but don't ask me to watch it because I'm never going to watch the program. So, you know, that's them. Let me see if I can share a short fragment of the projection. Is it working?
Very
yeah,
attracted by these houses, which
there we go.
Deteriorated from the outside, but
with all these fantastic big spaces in the inside. I found a home where old memories are preserved and beautiful new stories are created.
Eso, primera publicidad.
So this is a little disclaimer, but I've got a second one. Let me see if it works. I hope it's gonna work. Is this one working? No, this one is not working.
One day
anyway.
we were looking at this wall, which was half broken, and we saw
something behind. So Eric took a hammer, went on the stair and started tum tum tum. And the wall fell down, and suddenly a Gothic arch with an incredible capital in the shape of an angel appeared. And this was really a very emotional moment. And I remember how I had really this feeling that history had to have my respect. And then little by little we started to scrap the walls, and many different layers were appearing. In the floors, in the ceilings, in the walls, everywhere. O sea que veis que se pueden hacer varias producciones.
So as you can see,
Bueno, y varios cuentos, ¿no? Si haces una cosa, después
different
tenéis muchas
narratives,
maneras de
different
poderlas
stories
contar.
pop up,
Si queréis verla,
different
Holmes,
ways of telling
Pero-
stories. Well,
esa-
you can
esa-
watch it
esa-
Holmes
bueno, no
in
sé, no
Apple
es
TV. I don't know.
precisamente la
It's not
manera nuestra de explicar
precisely
las
our
cosas,
way
es
to
la
tell things.
televisión, una
We
difusión
speak
más
about
amplia, pero
TV,
me parece
a
muy
broad
divertido también
audience.
poderlo
Nonetheless, I
contar.
find it
Yo creo que
interesting. I
cuando
find it
hicimos el
funny.
proyecto de
It's a
Santa
different way,
Caterina,
right?
el
When we did the
mercado
Santa
donde
Caterina
comprábamos,
project,
nuestra
the
casa
market where
está en
I
el
do
barrio,
the shopping, well,
exactamente
our
por
home
aquí.
is in the same neighborhood,
Entonces
right?
nosotros pensamos será
Yeah.
muy fácil,
And
lo
I
hacemos
thought it's
como
going to
lo
be
ha hecho
extremely
nuestra
easy.
mamá.
We're going to do it like we've done
En la
our
parte
home,
histórica
right?
y
We
aplicaremos
are
un
at
poco
the
los mismos
historic,
conceptos. Después era
let's say,
bastante
part of the city, and we will be applying the same
idealizada esta
concept.
idea, ¿no? Porque
Of course.
actuar en
We
una
were
pequeña casa es una
naive, we
cosa,
were
actuar en una
idealistic.
ciudad como
One
la
thing is
ciudad de
to
Barcelona en los
build your
años
own
90,
home, and
absolutamente
a very different thing
densa,
is
con
to operate within
muchos
Barcelona
problemas,
back in the
digamos,
90s,
de
a very
quedarse entre
dense
una época y la
city.
otra era diferente.
Well, it
Entonces,
was something
yo
quite
creo que en
different,
Santa
right?
Caterina
I believe that in
hemos
Santa
actuado realmente
Caterina we
pensando
have
como que
been,
estábamos haciendo algo tipo
I mean,
casa
aware
y eso
of the
nos ha
fact that we
ayudado
were trying
mucho
to
porque nos ha
build a
dado
home, and this
como
was really
un poco
helpful
más de
because
ligereza en
it
tratar el tema.
somehow provided the market with
Pensábamos
a
que sí, que
certain
la destrucción que ha habido
lightness.
en
We
el
thought,
monasterio de
well,
Santa Caterina, que
the
después ha
Santa Caterina
permitido al
monastery was
mercado y después
destructed,
la
and as
decadencia
a
que había
result
en
of
ese
that, there
momento
was a
era algo
market,
que de un
and then the
lado
market
permitía
decayed and almost
una nueva
collapsed.
construcción. En
So
el
now
momento
it's
que
a
hemos
time for new
empezado el
construction. And
proyecto,
from the
el
moment we
mercado
started the
estaba
project,
muy en
the market
decadencia,
was, I mean,
con
as you can
cubiertas de
see, the market was
asbesto,
decaying
con el
with this
barrio
horrible
cerrado que no
ceiling.
permitía
The
la
neighborhood
entrada,
was
ya
really close
visualmente se ve.
against the
Pero
market.
en el
You
mismo
can tell
tiempo
it
era
visually.
un hecho
And at the
público
same
muy
time, it was
interesante,
a
donde,
very
por
interesting
ejemplo, se
public
abría el
event.
cielo, ¿no? Cosa que pasa
And
muy
it was
raramente en
about
Barcelona,
opening
porque en
up the
Barcelona, en la ciudad
sky.
vieja,
And it's quite rare, right? In
calles muy
Barcelona, in the old
estrechas y el cielo
city,
casi no lo ves.
streets are very
Y hemos
narrow and you
trabajado
can
mucho
never
con
see the
las
sky.
líneas
So we have been
históricas,
working with
solapando líneas
historic
históricas
lines
y
or
mirando lo que estaba
underlying
pasando
or
alrededor. En ese
overlapping rather
momento
historic
estaban
lines and
tirando,
looking
era el
around.
año
Back then,
93,
I'm speaking
94,
about the
estaban
90
tirando
year 1993, 1994,
barrios
and back
enteros,
then
bloques
they were
enteros urbanos para hacer una
literally
renovación
demolishing
que era como
urban blocks
financiada
in
por la
order to
Unión
carry
Europea
out
como para
a
introducir
renovation
aire
funded
y
by the
salud
European
dentro
Union in order
del
to
casco antiguo de
insert
Barcelona.
air
Pero
and
realmente había
health
también
within
que poner un
Barcelona old
límite entre
district. But of course,
destruir esta
a clear
densidad
limit
urbana
had to
histórica
be
y
set
darle valor a la
between
historia. Entonces,
smashing
allá hemos
history
entrado un poco
and
con todos nuestros
providing it with
estudios,
value,
nuestros
right? So
materiales
it
y
was back
nuestras
then when we
maquetas y
entered
nuestras
into the
pruebas
equation
para
and we started doing
entender cómo
tests
hacer
here
una
and
nueva
there to
arquitectura
try and
que
understand how to
pudiera
come up with a
convivir y
new
dialogar
architecture
con
that
el
could
casco urbano de
coexist and
Barcelona.
enter into
Entonces,
dialogue with
hemos
Barcelona
imaginado que el
old
mercado realmente era un mercado que
neighborhood.
quedaba como muy
So we
dentro, ¿no?
imagine
Muy
the
escondido,
market
y
to
esto de
be,
saltar
I mean, the
fuera
market was hidden
de
before,
la línea
and
del
having
perímetro
the
del muro
opportunity to
y
pop
entrar
up
en la ciudad era algo como muy
and somehow
importante, muy
penetrate the
importante
city was very
hacerse ver.
important for
Y en
us.
el
For
mismo
us,
tiempo
it was very
recordar la
important to
historia, tanto
somehow
que
show
cuando
off
hemos
and to
empezado
remember
las
history.
demoliciones,
So much
ha
so that when we
aparecido
started demolishing the
todo este
market,
monasterio que
well,
habíamos
we
dibujado, por suerte, porque lo habíamos estudiado, y nos hemos dado cuenta que
discovered
la
a
historia estaba
monastery.
totalmente presente,
And we
estaba
realized
por
that the
debajo,
monastery was there,
y en
right? It
el
was
momento que se ha
underneath
sacado la
the Santa
pavimentación,
Caterina market. So from the moment we
era allí, ¿no?
demolished the
Y
old
dado que
construction,
hay
we
estas
found the
fotografías
monastery.
que
And
amo
you can see the
mucho, que
pictures
son
here. I
como
love these
los
pictures.
ojos
These pictures
de la
are
gente, digamos,
somehow
de los
the
fantasmas
eyes
o de
of
los
the
cuerpos que se han
phantoms
sepultado dentro de
and
la
the
iglesia de Santa Caterina,
ghosts
que
that have been
finalmente
somehow
ven el cielo, ven la ciudad y se sorprenden de
and
la
well,
ciudad que ha
they
crecido
see the
alrededor del
city and they
monasterio, ¿no?
realize
Como,
about
como
the
desde la
city
tierra
that has grown around
empieza
the
una
monastery.
relación
So
con el resto de la historia que ha ido yendo adelante, ha ido como desarrollándose. Esos eran realmente los cuerpos que se han encontrado a
these are the,
porque aquí se sepultaba en la época,
well,
hasta
many people were
1700 se sepultaba
buried
dentro de la
here.
iglesia.
So of course we found this also. Skeletons. And little by little, archaeologists were replaced, were taken to a safe place, and we finally started building the market, an open space with this incredible ceiling on top. And on top of the ceiling, we have installed ceramics. We've covered the ceiling with ceramics, remembering about the interior of the market, which is marvelous and was very attractive. We've always done our shopping in the market and found colors and flavors and the idea of cooking for the entire family, right? I believe food is very important. It's a very important topic in cities. There is a British author speaking about food as being central, right? In cities, it was already an intuition. And that's why we wanted to cover the market ceiling with the color of fruit and vegetables and food in general, so that the city could have the feeling of those who are doing the shopping inside the market. And in order to transform the market into a more public space in interaction with the city. Inside the market, you will find a lot of wood. We are very fond of wood. There's a public square covered by this wood ceiling, and behind the homes that somehow, as you can see, are very dense.
Por la exposición de Roma, que tenía que ver con el patrimonio, os enseño sobre todo una serie de proyectos.
I'm going to show you some projects that are related to history, heritage, interacting with heritage, and that are related with our home. Here is a building in Utrecht, in the Netherlands. And when we were offered this project with the customers that would come see well, we convinced them because we brought them home and we told them, this is our home, so your city council will look very similar to our home, and they believed us. And we thought, wow, it's crazy that they want a city council that looked like our home. So we refurbished Utrecht City Council. As you can see, the city council was falling apart when we were offered this project back in 1997, and the history of the building was impressive. Understanding Utrecht's City Council history took a long time, and sometimes I remember the project and it made me laugh. Well, the building was an addition of different homes, and when at the end of 1940 or 50, the building was transformed, a new building was built, a neoclassic facade was built, you could still recognize the different units that had added up into the building, and the different rooms or areas of the city council had the name of the home. So our idea, or what we decided was to demolish the building dating from the 40s, because the demolition would allow us to open a new square, and well, for us that was like reverting the building, right? Turning it upside down, going back to the origin. Because of the origin, these were a line of different units that had been somehow covered with a neoclassic facade. And our idea was to relaunch the idea of it being a collage composed by different homes with light inside. And we wanted to bring as much light as possible inside the building. In our home, we've done double ceilings, we've brought light all the way down into the house. And that's what we did in Utrecht. We wanted to break the ceiling, we wanted to build new spaces to somehow make beauty even more clear, such as the construction inside the construction, which at the end of the day is a series of homes that had gathered or united to come up with a public space. We had to work in this project for quite a long time, many years actually, and the outcome was quite surprising, even for us. We had not foreseen the outcome. See, as a result of the first demolishment, we obtained this new square. The new door is rather tiny, underlined by an arch, a superior arch, and the new wing, which was built ex novo, was built with fragments of the demolished building. So I was quite surprised about the collage architecture we came up with, combining different historic periods. And you really can't tell if this is a Roman building from the 40s or from 1998, because elements converge, and somehow it's like a continuum between history and new elements, such as this fountain, clearly modern fountain. Here's a new entrance. See the different homes with different windows converging into the internal patio. So demolishing the front building allowed us to see the differences, right, of the different homes. And inside, same thing applies. Here is the Ratsal, as I say, where decisions are made or taken. It's the same as a collage with different elements. We've left ancient items, even more than we had foreseen in the project. We had foreseen to somehow clean up a little bit the ceiling, and we decided to leave much more old elements than foreseen, and we accepted this hybrid style, allowing the presence of the existing architecture covered with paintings and other wooden elements, the stairs, etc. Here we have another example of the Utrecht City Council. The relationship with its history is quite powerful, also with the city's history. Here is the Duomo Tower, the main church in Utrecht, and the church has an incredible history. Wind blew down half of the church centuries ago, so this is only a symbol. This is a scenographic play. There's a lot of playing around, there's a lot of interaction with the history, there's quite a lot of irony, respect, and at the same time, there's willingness to accept imperfection, because imperfection can turn into beauty, much more beauty than the neoclassic beauty from the 18th century, probably because today our sensitivity is open to appreciate historic fragments in opposition with staged beauty. Well, we were also allocated a project, or offered, or we won a project, the most official one. This is in Edinburgh, an incredible city, Edinburgh, and Enrique brought me to Edinburgh because he considered it to be an incredible city with the rails with the train rails installed in a former dry lake. In the right-hand side of the city, you can see the historic village with the Queen's Castle connected by a line called the Royal Mile, and to the left, the new neighborhood. Here you can see the historic city, and there was a contest, and our dear friends from Scotland asked us to participate to build a new parliament where the Royal Mile ends and where the Queen's Palace is located. And then Rick said, "No, I don't want to participate here. It's far too official. We are not official architects." And I thought that it was nice that he was convinced of participating in this tender, because one of the main efforts we had to do in order to build this Parliament was precisely to bring parliaments closer to cities, bring official parliaments to or closer to citizens, right? I love this building because there's this little hill, the Carlton Hill, with a lot of fake historic fragments that transform into a marvelous element in Edinburgh. Like a wish, Edinburgh somehow wants to become the new Caledonia, the new Athens, and transforms into skyline, right? And this is a bit a new landscape, right? It's like a new panorama into the city, the most official building in Scotland. And at the beginning of the project, we included a lot of green mountains around. And we thought, okay, the power of the mountains will transform the place and will allow us to come up with a public space, a parliament. So all this land movement was not foreseen. And actually, this was not the property of the parliament, it was the property of the Queen and her palace. And the Queen offered it to the city in order to build an amphitheater, which is a symbol of a parliament of gatherings. So all the land movement maintains and suspends a series of buildings that later transformed into the parliament with a plenary session room and an old palace preserved, fragmented, and all the building is somehow like a pile of boats in a harbor. It's a rather difficult geometry to understand, but this is a geometry that boats accept when they interact one with another. Boats are the first image we had about this venue, right? A series of boats turned upside down that become little homes, or even the interior of boats that we could see in marine museums in Glasgow and in other cities in Scotland, because of course Scotland has always been a very powerful naval nation. It has had palaces and castles, but the navy has always been very important in Scotland. And for us, the reference to boats was very important. Part of the building has been actually built through a technology which is much more aligned with naval construction than, let's say, buildings, traditional buildings, and the relationship with the Queen's Palace and the squares has been preserved. We've tried to come up with a rather subtle relationship, right? Not trying to build another palace in front of the old queen's palace, but rather small shadows that attract people and allow for any relationship with the history of Edinburgh. And here you can see a few images of the office building, because of course in a parliament, I mean, parliaments are very symbolic and they must have an impact in people's imaginary. But at the end of the day, we're thinking about an office, right? So if you live it like an office, you get lost in the process. Look at this window, the worker here having a rest in the strange window. Well, these anthropomorphic windows allowed us to somehow get away from the idea of an office building and allowed us to transform the building into a very special building where each MP has his or her own office, which is presented inside out in a special shape, which from inside is just a seat that allows for a moment of reflection, right? The members of the Scottish Parliament, the Scottish MPs have a time to reflect before they take the floor in the Parliament plenary room. It's all about escaping the image of the building being an office. Here is the inside facade, playing with water and rain, and the plenary, or the debate room, which is the core of a parliament where important decisions are taken. Well, here's a room where naval technology, ship construction technology is quite self-speaking, and part of the audience can almost touch, let's say, the area reserved for politicians. You can see many anthropomorphic images animating the parliament here, because even if oftentimes parliaments are empty, it's interesting for it to feel like inhabited. The parliament was, I mean, it was a great effort to build it. Actually, Enrique passed away during the construction of the parliament, and this was the last guideline he gave us. He was a little bit pissed off, to be honest, because they were changing things all the time and there was no more room. So we had to take room or part of the garden to enlarge the hall. So he was not happy. He was not happy. So here's the last sketch he gave us. And it was like a combination of boats converging into a garden, and this became the core of the building, the center of the building. And I believe this is due to the fact that it aims at becoming a landscape and a construction at the same time. And this is what we tried with this parliament, right? And when you arrive from the Royal Mile over here, you realize that, I mean, before you only see historic parts. And here are some inscriptions and poems from Scotland. The inauguration was fantastic, and I believe that this, I mean, we had many struggles with Enrique and ulteriorly myself and I alone, right? And when it was inaugurated by the Queen, it was just marvelous. And I forgot about all the problems and histories. I would love to write a novel about the process.
Entonces, nada,
but I
esto es lo que
can't.
queda.
So this is
Entonces,
what we
ahora
have
vamos a
left.
otro proyecto.
Let me now move to
Ahora
another
estoy controlando el
project.
tiempo. Andrea, tú me
I'm not
dices cuando
controlling my
decides
time, Andrea. You
yo.
tell me when I have to
Bueno.
stop, right?
Entonces, este es otro proyecto
Let
que
me
es
now
mucho
bring
más
you to
reciente.
another project. This one
Cuando,
is much
después de la
more
muerte de Rick en el año
recent.
2000,
After
hemos seguido
Enrique
los
passed
proyectos
away
y después poco a
in year
poco hemos
2000,
empezado a
we
hacer nuestros proyectos por
kept
nuestra
working,
cuenta.
and
Siempre
then
pensando que Enrique
we,
estaba por allá, entonces ha sido como muy
well,
útil porque
I always kept
nos ha
Enrique
dado
in
esta idea
mind,
de
right?
continuidad. Y un día nos llamaron desde Roma y hay una
And one
comisión
day,
que
someone called me from
hace
Rome and
pocas
told
nuevas
me,
iglesias, pero cuando es necesario la hacen. Y entonces nos llamaron para hacer un concurso
we
en
need to build a
Ferrara
new
para hacer una nueva
church. And they
iglesia
called
un
us
poco
because there
fuera
was
de
a
las
tender to
líneas
build
históricas
a
de la
church in
ciudad.
Ferrara,
Ferrara
which
es una
was
ciudad
different from the
maravillosa.
traditional
Está entre
churches.
Venecia y
Ferrara is a
Bologna
lovely
y
city
tiene
between
esta
Venezia and
característica de ser
Bologna.
realmente como muy
And
especial, una arquitectura como muy suya,
it's very
un
interesting.
poco mistérica, un poco mágica. Y está llena de bicicletas, el centro histórico
It's always
realmente
full
es como muy,
of
muy
bikes.
antiguo, casi una pequeña Venecia, donde la gente se
It's like
mueve
a
con
small
bicicletas.
Venezia where
Y
people move
nuestro
around
lugar
on their
estaba
bikes.
más allá de la
And
parte
for
histórica,
us,
más allá de un canal que existe, en una zona como muy plana y donde había nuevos
the
vecinos,
venue, I mean,
gente que
the plot
necesitaba
was in a
una
very
iglesia.
flat
Entonces,
area. And well, there were new
nosotros para
neighbors
trabajar
needing
en
a
esta
new
iglesia
church.
empezamos
So,
como
in
no
order to
sabiendo muy
work in
bien
this project, we didn't really know what we had to do.
a trabajar
We
con
didn't really know
collage.
what decision
Yo
to
creo que el
take.
collage se ha transformado más y más en
So we
algo
started
importante
using
para
collage.
nosotros.
Collage has
Entonces
become a
hemos
very
ido
important
recortando
tool for us.
trozos
So
de
we just took
Ferrara
some
y
bits and
después poniendo
pieces,
a los trozos
pictures
de
of
Ferrara también
Ferrara,
deseos, como por ejemplo esas estructuras de madera, porque en esta época habían
wood
terremotos en Ferrara,
structures,
una
because
cosa
back
muy
then there
rara,
were earthquakes in
no
Ferrara.
habían habido durante
Quite
300
strange.
años,
It had never been the
considerado una
case
zona
for
no
300
sísmica
years.
y de
It was
repente se ha
considered a
transformado en sísmica.
non-seismic
Entonces,
area,
esta
and all of a
idea de
sudden
una
it became
arquitectura más
seismic again.
ligera se ha hecho
So the
presente
idea
en
of a
nuestros
more
dibujos
light
y
architecture
hasta el
was
punto que hemos
very
empezado a
important
mirar
in our
arquitectura realmente
sketches.
ligera, ¿no?
And we
Arquitectura que viene
started
del
really
cielo,
looking
como
for
unos
very, very
globos. Y
light
hemos pensado
architecture,
que habría sido
architecture
muy
coming from the
bonito,
sky,
en vez
like these
de
balloons.
proponer
And
una
we
nueva
thought,
iglesia
well,
para
it would
Ferrara
be
que se pareciera a
interesting,
Ferrara, una nueva
instead
iglesia que
of
se pareciera
suggesting a
a un
new church
globo
that looks like
caído del
Ferrara,
cielo.
well,
Entonces esta
to
idea nos pareció
suggest
loca, ya
a
estábamos
church
seguros de no ganar
which
el
looks
concurso
like
y
a
con eso
balloon.
hemos
It was a
trabajado con
crazy
más
idea.
libertad, un poco
We
como
thought,
la
okay, we're
casa,
never
y hemos hecho
gonna win this
muchísimos
tender, so
pequeños
we're gonna be
dibujos,
free.
pequeños
And we
fragmentos.
came up with
Estas
different
son maquetas
sketches,
del
bits and
principio
pieces. These
y
are
ahora que la
maquettes from the
iglesia
beginning
está
of the project. And
construida,
now that the
me
church has
sorprende
been
mirar
built,
y ver
I am
cómo
absolutely
las pequeñas
surprised
maquetas
to
del primer
see
concurso
how the
se
sketches
parecen
from the first
realmente a la construcción
part
que
of the
después se ha
project
hecho,
really
¿no?
look
Esta también es una
quite
parte de
alike.
las maquetas que
This is
venían
also another of the maquette, or
collage que
the
hacíamos
maquette, yeah,
un
that
poco tridimensionales
derived from the
y esta
3D
es
collage that we
la
did,
iglesia
and this is the
construcción, ¿no? Que
construction
alguna cosa tiene que ver con
site.
estos
It is
fragmentos.
somehow
Esta es
alike,
un
right,
poco la
to the
maqueta más
sketches.
completa con una cubierta
This one is
que
perhaps a
era
little bit more
muy interesante.
fine-tuned.
Realmente
We wanted the cover to be
la
interesting.
iglesia es iglesia, casa del
The
cura
church
y
is
también toda la
a
parte de
church, the
aulas para
priest's
para
home,
enseñar y
and it
reuniones.
also hosts
Entonces es casi como un
classrooms
globo con
and
su
conference
cola
center.
que
So it's like a
procede.
balloon
Y esto
with a
realmente era muy
tail.
similar al principio y
And
se
for
ha
us,
mantenido,
I mean,
aunque la
yeah,
construcción después ha durado más de 10 años, ha durado muchísimo. Y el interior del edificio lo queríamos
regarding the
con
interior
una
of the building,
estructura
we
de
wanted
madera,
it to
porque
be
ese era
in
realmente
wood.
nuestro deseo de hacer algo como muy, muy ligero.
We wanted
Y
it to
al
be
final la
light.
estructura de madera no ha podido ser estructural, pero sí que ha podido ser una
And,
estructura acústica, que yo creo que
well,
introduce como un tema de calidez y también de protección hacia quien entra en el edificio de la iglesia. Hemos trabajado con un
we
artista
also
maravilloso,
work
se llama
with
Enzo
a
Zucchi,
marvelous artist,
pertenecía a
Enzo
la
Zucchi.
transavanguardia italiana
from the Italian
artista
trance
difficile,
vanguard.
una persona como dal carácter
He's a
muy
difficult
cerrado,
artist
può
with a very
diseñarse unas cosas
close
poderosas.
personality,
Desde el
and that's
principio
why
me decía,
he does very powerful things.
nunca te
And at the
haré
beginning, he
una
told me,
pala de
I will
altar
never,
estacorrejadas
never,
con una
never
virgen. Yo
allow
quiero hacer una cosa negra.
colors in my
A mí me
work. I
parecía
want a
fantástica,
dark
¿no?
thing. And
Una
for me, it was
materia negra era lo
perfect.
que
I
él
thought,
tenía en la
okay,
cabeza desde el
dark
principio.
matter,
Y
no problem.
lógicamente el proyecto ha sido
So,
tan
quite
largo
logically,
porque
the project
en
took quite a
Roma,
long time,
en la
right?
parte
Because in
eclesiástica, no
Rome,
podían aceptar que un
in
artista pusiera
Rome, they would never
alguna
accept an
forma
artist
negra detrás del altar.
to
Y
somehow
además tenía
place
como cruces al
black
revés, realmente
shape
parecía
behind
el
the
anticristo más
podium.
que
It was like an antichrist,
Pero bueno,
right?
al final ha sido
So it
muy
would not be
importante,
accepted in
maravilloso tener un
Rome.
señor que se llama liturgista, que es el
This
que conduce,
gentleman,
digamos, el artista y el arquitecto hacia la liturgia, hacia el ritual, hacia entender
I
el
believe,
ritual y el sentimiento que tiene que
allowed
provocar
us
un
to
ritual.
better understand
Entonces, por
rituals
ejemplo,
and
con
feelings that
Cookie, el
churches
liturgista, ha
produce.
trabajado maravillosamente.
So
Y ha sabido cómo llevar esta idea de la
I believe the whole
materia
idea
negra, de la
of
cerámica negra,
black matter,
hacia
black
algo como más
ceramics
aceptable. Entonces,
in an altar
digamos,
to
Enzo
be
ha
acceptable
puesto
for
unas
Rome. So
cruces
Enzo
en el espacio
introduced
y
this
por encima de las
cross
cruces como unas formelas antiguas, pero
and some
deformadas, de
old
cerámica negra,
shapes
hacen toda la parte, digamos, descriptiva, la parte más artística
with
de
all the
sus obras, que
descriptive
los lleva
side,
en
the artistic
tridimensional,
side
en bajo relieve.
in 3D.
Entonces, estas cruces
So
son cruces
these
de
crosses
piedra serena, una piedra
are
noble,
built
muy
in
bonita.
serene
Nosotros hemos dejado los muros
stone,
tal
very
cuales,
nice
en hormigón,
stone. The
y la piedra
walls
serena es como
are
que
left
hace
uncovered and
poner en
the
evidencia la
stone
nobleza que sale de los muros. Y después estas
underlines
cerámicas
the
que los recubren
beauty
le dan
of the
toda la
walls.
parte narrativa y toda una parte también muy, muy especial.
That's quite
Es de liturgista,
incredible, quite
es un cura, pero no parece. Y le gusta también
interesting.
hablar sobre
He's a
cultura.
priest,
Y aquí
but he doesn't look
estamos
like
con
one,
los
like just
muebles,
speaking as if he was not a priest.
la parte,
Here
digamos, de
are images of the
arredo de la
furniture.
iglesia. Le proponíamos utilizar madera, lo
We wanted to
aceptaron
use
parcialmente
wood.
porque
It
también
was
la madera
partially
tenía que ser el
accepted because,
altar,
of course,
pero el
wood,
altar
I mean, the
dijo,
altar had to
el
be
altar
in
es
wood.
Pietro
We
y es
wanted the
piedra,
altar to
no,
be
porque este
in wood, but
recuerdo
they said,
como mucho más
no, it has to be
simbólico.
in
Pero todo el
stone,
resto sí que lo hemos hecho con
symbolically
una
speaking,
madera
but the rest
que realmente es
was
como
developed
laminada, pero
with a
permite
laminated
hacer ver
wood
que casi
that
se trata de algo
allows you to
macizo.
pretend
Evidentemente
that
no es una
is
madera maciza,
rocket
pero
solid. Of
es
course,
como
it's not
casi como
rocket
una
solid,
escultura dentro de la
but
madera,
it looks like a
con este sistema,
sculpture
digamos,
inside
de
the
poner
wood,
juntas
thanks to
las
this.
cosas. Y todo era como la idea de recuperar maderas. Después, al final, es muy difícil ir a recuperar cosas. Nadie va a hacer este trabajo de recuperar. Entonces,
This
la
allows you to
madera
recover wood.
recuperada para
So
las
recovered
puertas, para los
wood,
grandes portales,
which
no
was
ha sido
used for the
posible,
large
pero sí que ha
doors,
sido
well, this wasn't
posible
possible,
para la vida
but it has
interior,
been
que realmente ha
possible
sido
for
como
the
un regalo que todo el
inside
palacio comunal se ha encontrado bajo un techo. Algunas vigas tiradas, que eran las vigas antiguas del palacio, y
beam
hemos podido utilizarlas
or
para la
raft.
viga central de la iglesia.
We could use this
Entonces,
old
aquí estamos llegando desde
wood
fuera,
for the
una
inside beam.
cubierta de
Here you can see the
cobre,
cover, copper,
también, digamos,
in copper,
sus movimientos que te indican dónde está la iglesia o
with a
dónde
very
está la
nice
casa del
movement that
cura.
points you
Y
to the
entrando
church.
se ve como esta iglesia también juega un poco
And
con la
inside you can see
historia,
how the
¿no?
church
Con
plays with
lo que es
history
recuperado, que quizá
and plays
son
with
las vigas centrales,
recovered
el
materials, the
suelo
central
es,
beam, the
son piedras,
floor,
el altar es una piedra tal cual
the
como
altar,
encontramos
which
en
is
la
a
cava.
stone, a
Estos
stone,
elementos son
the way we
elementos
found it.
que
All
regala
these
mi padre, que
elements
también es como muy bonito de tener
are
alguna cosa como
or were
personal
offered by my dad.
para la Acqua Santa,
For me, it was
para el
nice, right,
bautizo. Y en el fondo
to
hay una
have some
Madonna
personal
que
elements, and
tiene
at the
como toda
end,
una historia. La
you can
encontramos
see
de casualidad, es como que
you can
se
see a
se
Madonna.
encontró. Y todas
We found it by chance, and all the crosses, which are cookies. And he told me, you will never find an artist with a softer ego than mine, because I have not written down my name, right? And there's nothing else on the cross, and these little circles, these little planets, like a Geminide cross.
Soprattutto in epoca romanica. Y allá veis los elementos de mobiliario que ponen.
As you can see here, some furniture items.
Celebrantes y las lámparas que también son lámparas de madera.
The lamps in wood also. And here it's interesting to see how wood gains importance in the cover, in the lights, in furniture. And at the end of the process, a miracle happened. The lamps that we had designed projected angels, and photographers enjoyed taking pictures of the little shapes here, and then projected thanks to the lamps. Here you can see the cross and a Via Crucis produced by Cookie. I believe this is extremely refined. Before we've seen the baptismal font. And in ceramics, he stated the number of the station in top of each station. And here you can see the Enzo Cookie's Via Crucis from the outside. You can see the church and the priest home. And this is the church entrance, which welcomes the faithful. The area is foggy, so we use white and bricks. Ferrara is very fond of bricks, and this is what you can see. A church in an historic venue, yet how are we doing time-wise? How much time do I have left? Here's another project from Hamburg. We love it. I love the project because it was the first one. The first when we participated after Enric's death. It was in 2001, it started in 2001, and we are still working on it. The project was about redefining the public spaces of the old harbor in Hamburg. So we are now working to redefine these floating squares and all the floors of the Hafen city. This picture was taken a few years ago. Part of this has already been built, but it's still work in progress. And I believe that the project has been very interesting. And we have also been working in order to introduce elements that might call people's attention, right? Because transforming this for human beings means we need to introduce ceramics and different materials so that people can reorient themselves throughout this space, right? Which has a lot of different pathways down to the water, because this water is extremely dangerous. Actually, Hamburg has been flooded many times back in the 70s. So now they are building the city 7 meters in top of sea level, so above sea level rather. So our work is to allow people to go back down to the water, right? I'm enjoying the sea. Here you can see the Elba, the river's estuary. But you know, being in a harbor, looking or watching the activity happening in a harbor is just marvelous. And I believe that for visitors, it's interesting and it has allowed Hamburg this part of the city has been transformed into a much beloved neighborhood in the city. It was quite incredible. And this is still a work in progress. Let me briefly mention another project. Here's one of the projects in Rome. This one is, I love it. This one was implemented in China in 2010 in the framework of the Shanghai exhibition. And we came up with a crazy idea. We wanted to recover a building with timber. And we said, oh, symbolically, it's going to be interesting, but let's do it in iron. And we ended up doing it in timber. And it was fantastic. It was quite surprising, even for us. It was the first time for us to come up with such an interesting idea, and it gave us the opportunity to open up to China, which is a fascinating place. I love China. Since I traveled to China when I was 18 years old, it was a very different China, of course. Now I'm very happy to have an interaction with this very distant yet beloved place. I have learned a lot from China, and I've learned a lot about China's history, or from China's history, and I believe it's the perfect time to be back to China and to learn one from another. So it was a very interesting experiment about how to come up with sewing architecture. Here's another fantastic place, Napoli. Love Napoli, with an incredible underground. And in Napoli, we were asked to build a subway station in the city center. Let me move very quickly because I only have project images. Here you will have a hidden underground square. It will look very 60s and 70s, very mineral. So it's all about how to redefine a very organic part of the city in Napoli, a part of the city that had lost its essence. Here in Romanville, near Paris, we have transformed an old pavilion that somehow was the image of this old town, and we've transformed it into the entry into a large cultural center and a garden behind. So this pavilion has opened inside out, and it now allows the city to reconnect with its green areas and with its culture, hidden in these cubicles between the forest and the city, and that somehow allow some room for creativity and fun for culture. And now I need to drink a sip of water.
Perfecto.
Lovely, lovely. Let me skip all this. Let's go back to Rome. Rome captivates me. Rome is an incredible place. Before, in the past, we have been able to exhibit our work in Palazzo Venezia. It was an amazing experience to, set up an exhibition, an ephemeris exhibition. Here we filled this patio with pillows, and behind there were the gardens. So we flooded the palazzo with pillows, and we used a lot of wood to built light exhibitors, and here in the bottom, or in the rather Vittoriano area, we have inserted small fragments of wood that interacted with history. I know the pictures are not terrific. These are only tiny examples. We have also been able to exhibit a second time in the Vittoriano, an exhibition that has to do with l'Italia and la Centina Romana, and there we tried to build all the exhibition on top of it or around it. One of the arches, the structure of the Roman arches, and here's the outcome of our exhibitions. Now, to conclude, let me speak briefly about a recent exhibition in Milan, where we aimed at exhibiting pieces of furniture. Oh, this has nothing to do with what I meant. Let me skip this. Oh, no. Yeah. So, here you can see the poster for the exhibition with the lovely kids of the Talita Foundation. It was a very hot day, so we had a lot of fun with these paper rolls, and we jumped and played on top of this wood, and this wood and this is the furniture that I have at home. They are all prototypes, and we thought, oh, they are never going to be seen, they are never going to be produced. But now, a long time after developing them, we thought, okay, why not? So we came up with this very nice exhibition of the moving furniture in our home, and I believe that it's been fabulous to present all these mobile elements. And this is part of my interest in domestic environments with relentless attempts to develop things with no, let's say, okay, it doesn't matter, let me move on. This is the exhibition. This is a picture of the exhibition in Milano. See the large poster that we had produced with the kids, with our hands and our feet. As you can see here, the furniture in movement, and the ones that had been produced for exhibitions, but that had never been seen or had never been presented, like this one called Le Lucappi. This is a lovely piece of furniture to store toys. I wanted to share this with you because it is very recent. Of course, there's no connection between this and the previous project, but I believe this is a lovely one, and I wanted to share it with you. It's fresh, it's new, it's what I'm working on right now, and it's a source of satisfaction for me. In the exhibition in Milan, well, I believe it also allows for a showroom. I mean, it is actually a showroom, and we suggested them to install the ceramics the old way. Of course, they set some limits, but they trusted us, and that's how we started working with mosaic and cross wood in order to come up with a cross with the showroom, sorry. So the showroom space has been filled with all these mosaics which are fragments of their collections, and we have invented a new way of coming up with cross structures so that they turn into the support of the ceramics that we wanted to exhibit. These are the renders,
La parte
but
final es como muy parecida, ¿no? Con una parte de madera trenzada
you can see it here.
delante y atrás como toda la gran pared de madera que sostiene
The large
la
wooden
materioteca,
wall
que
that
sería
supports
la
the
serie de
materioteca, which is a series of ceramic collections that have been developed. So here are some of the images, some of the pictures of what I mean. The whole, the mural, which is a tribute to Federico. It was very fun to produce it. So this is a different scale. From my perspective, it looks quite different. And I believe it was, I mean, it looks nice, right? To work in an interior venue with collections and in a
muy emocionante en este salone último, ahora en junio.
It was quite thrilling in this salone in June too.
Pues finalmente he vuelto a Milán, que es mi ciudad y que realmente hasta
Well,
ahora
I have been back to Milan,
¿Podemos acabar con un
my
proyecto o
city.
hemos sobrepasado?
Am I out of time or can I
Entonces acabamos con
still
un
share
proyecto que
one
tiene
last
algo que
project
ver
with
con la
you?
cerámica,
Okay,
pero tiene
here's
más
one
que
last
ver
project
con
that has to do with
una idea
ceramics, but also with an
de
idea
bienestar,
of
¿no?
well-being.
Estamos en el Hospital San Pau.
This is Sant Pau Hospital in Barcelona.
Gil, por eso se llama
And
San
this
Pau, el
gentleman,
hospital,
Pau
es el
Gil,
mecenate
that's why the
que ha
hospital is called
permitido que se
Sant
construyera
Pau,
este
is the
hospital. Y
sponsor
él
that
lo
allowed
pidió
or
como
paid for
arquitecto a
the
Domenech
hospital.
Montaner,
So
que
he
a la época yo creo que
manded
era
the
el
project to
modernista
Domenic and
más
Montaner, who
sfarzoso,
was the
más
top
exagerado que había. Entonces,
modernist
como muy raro, ¿no? Pedirle
architect
esto para un
and
hospital.
very, let's
Pero Pau
say,
Gil lo tenía muy claro y tenía muy
eclectic.
claro que quien
But Pau
entrara en
Gil
este
was very
hospital
clear about it,
tuviera
and
la
he wanted
sensación
to
de
make sure
estar
that
como en un lugar
patients in
maravilloso. Porque
this
realmente entras en un
hospital
hospital
had the
enfermo,
feeling of being in a marvelous place, right? When you go to hospital, it means you are sick. It's not a right moment, it's not a cool moment in your life, but the environment can help you get healed, right? So that's what Domenic and Montaner was asked. And he came up with an incredible building composed by different pavilions in the garden, decorated with colors, with ceramics. This is a marvelous project. And in the bottom or underground, there are connections, right? Corridors. And in this case, we were asked to build a tiny pavilion in order to come up with a new function, which is escaping the hospital to feel like at home, like in a Maggie. And here they wanted to do the first Maggie outside the UK. So before anything, we, of course, again did a collage with San Pau Hospital and the marvel of using ceramics and flowers that conquered modernism. We wanted to make sure that our building became a modernist flower. You can see it between the old hospital and the new hospital in the garden. You will find the Maggie Pavilion that will end up being called Calida. And the history is, well, everything started with this gentleman. He's a very well-known gentleman, Chenks. I'm
crítico
sure
de
all
arquitectura
architects
muy
know him.
especial, muy
He's
fuerte,
an
y ella es su
architecture
mujer,
critic,
Maggie
and she's
Keswick,
his
y
wife,
los dos
Maggie
juntos tenían
Keswick,
un estudio de
and
paisajismo,
both
hacían
had
paisajismo
a
juntos y conocían los
landscapism
mejores arquitectos del
studio,
mundo.
and they
Cuando
knew the
Maggie se
best
enfermó de
architects in the
cáncer,
world.
se dio cuenta
When
que
Maggie
los
got sick
hospitales ingleses
with
eran
cancer,
seguramente muy
she
buenos,
realized
pero
that
muy feos
British
y muy
hospitals were
duros, y ella se encontraba
excellent but very
que de un
ugly
lado la curaban,
and
del otro
hard to live
la
in.
oprimían, porque no se
So it was
sentía
quite
a
depressing for her
gusto
to be there,
humanamente.
right?
Entonces, después de
From a human
años,
perspective.
cuando
So
Maggie
after many
murió,
years, when she
Charles,
passed away,
con la enfermera de
Charles,
Maggie,
with
fundó una
Maggie's
serie
nurse,
de
funded
construcciones que se llaman Maggie Centers, que
these
están cerca de los
constructions,
hospitales
Maggie
y que sirven
centers,
como para
near
refugio para quien
hospitals
va
and
a
which
hacer
are
la
a
cura del cáncer,
refuge for
para
those who are
estar
under
y sentirse a
cancer
casa y poderse
treatment
hacer
to be
una
able to
taza de té,
feel like
como
at
decía
home
Maggie.
and to be able
Entonces
to
le encarga
prepare themselves a cup of
pabellón en
tea.
muchos lugares a arquitectos
So
increíbles, a Frank
he
Gehry, a
commanded
Agent Art,
these
arquitectos de
pavilions
Escocia como
to
ellos, Oma, Zaha,
Patch, Omar,
Rogers,
Gaham,
a un Foster.
Rogers,
O sea que ahora hay unos
Foster.
30 edificios
So
Maggies
now there are
construidos
around 30
en
Maggie
Gran Bretaña,
buildings
y
in the
todos
UK,
están con
and they're
grandes
all
arquitectos, porque la idea es que la arquitectura
the
cura,
work
la
of
buena
great
arquitectura te hace sentir a
architects. The
casa,
idea is that
y todos
good
tienen esta
architecture makes you feel
relación
like at
con el
home,
jardín, con el
and they
espacio
all have a
exterior.
relationship with the
Entonces,
garden, with the
nosotros
outside
cuando nos dieron
space.
el lugar,
So when we
empezamos
were
también a pensar que el
offered
pabellón
this
tenía que
possibility,
ver
we thought
con
that the pavilion
dejar que la
had to
vegetación y el entorno jugara
allow
con
vegetation to play a role,
con la
plants,
nueva
right,
construcción.
to play a role in the
Aprendimos
new
mucho de la
construction. We
arquitectura
learned a
floreal de
lot
Domenech y Montaner, y
from
las
the
primeras
floral
maquetas era
architecture of the
realmente
Menaka in Montagny.
casi
And in the
casi
first
flores, que se
maquette, as you
hacían
can see here,
maquetas y que
we came up
después
with flowers that
inventábamos que eran espacios
turned
donde
into
pasaban
maquettes.
cosas, ¿no?
And
Esta
then,
fue, por
well,
ejemplo, la
we
maqueta que
decided that
vio
they would
Charles por
become
primera vez.
spaces where things
No
happened.
sabíamos ni cómo funcionara,
This is
porque
the
en ese
maquette that
momento no había
Charles
tampoco
came
ni
up
el
with.
dinero del encargo,
For the
y
first time, we
Charles
had
nos
not even the
dijo,
money,
esto
right,
es
the budget. But Charles
maravilloso,
said, this one
adelante.
is perfect.
Entonces,
This is the one I want.
fue un proceso
So,
bonito,
yeah, the
realmente
process was lovely,
con mucha buena voluntad de parte de todos, y al
with a
final se
great
presentó
deal
una
of
fundación
goodwill,
de aquí,
and
catalana, que se llama Cálida,
a
y
Catalan
que
foundation called
permitió
Calida
que este sueño se hiciera realidad.
allowed the
Entonces,
dream to
realmente
become
pusimos
a
en un
reality.
determinado lugar esta
So
flor, le dimos
we
realmente
built
una
the
relación
flower,
muy clara con el
and we
hospital, con el hospital antiguo y con el paisaje.
attached the
Y
flower with the
esto es un
old
poco el
building
edificio
and the
ahora, que es
landscape,
un
and
nuevo
here's the
pabellón
building.
dentro
This is
del
a new
recinto de San
pavilion
Pau.
inside the
Y
San
desde
Pao
arriba
perimeter.
tenéis como este
From the
color,
top,
es el único color
you'll see this
brillante
color. It's the
del
only
pabellón, que
shiny
atrae la gente que está
color
aquí
of
en
the
el hospital,
pavilion
esta
that
es la terraza del
attracts
hospital, y
those who are in
que
hospital.
invita
This
a
is the
entrar
terrace of the
en este
hospital,
edificio.
and
Del
that
otro
somehow
lado el edificio está
invites you
mucho más
to
abierto, veis que el hospital
enter.
está atrás,
From the
y
other
entonces
side, the
hay
building
como un
is
jardín
open.
secreto que te invita
There's
a
this
entrar y te
hidden
invita
garden
a
that allows
conocer
you
más
to,
de
or rather
este
invites you to
pabellón que está
enter the
construido con
building and get to
cerámica
know more about the
como el Hospital
pavilion,
San Pau.
which is
Hay
built
como
in
una parte
ceramics, like the
de
San Pao
pérgolas que extienden un
Hospital.
poco el
There
edificio
are
en
these
el jardín,
pergolas that
y al
somehow
interior el edificio
expand the
es
building into
realmente
the garden, and
muy
inside
casa,
the
muy
building is
doméstico, con
like a
grandes
home
ventanales que
with
se
large
abren hacia afuera,
windows
con una parte
towards the
central que
outside,
es
with a
la mesa
central
de
area
comedor, donde la
with
cocina
the
está al lado, te puedes hacer la taza de té o puedes
dining
sentarte a hablar
table
con un
where you
vecino.
can prepare
Y
yourself a
hay
cuppa
como una
or
doble
sit down
altura
and
que
stick
conecta
with a day
todo el
bag. There's
edificio,
this
hace que el edificio sea como
double
uno, pero
height.
hay muchos diferentes espacios,
with
muchos
different
diferentes
spaces,
corners,
different
todos que miran
corners.
hacia jardín.
They all look
Entonces, pues, esta
outside
es la
into the
última imagen
garden. And this is the
de la
last image of
presentación.
the Cálida,
El
the last image
centro
of my
Cálida
presentation.
Maggi ya está
The
abierto al
Cálida
público, se
Maggi
puede ver.
Center is
Y
open to the
dentro de
public.
poco habrá
It
un
can be
segundo
visited.
centro
And
Cálida,
soon there will be a
que
second
pues
Cálida
estará
Center,
seguramente en las manos de buenísimos
probably
arquitectos. Y esto será el principio de una
designed
serie
by
de
amazing
edificios que
architects.
realmente
This is only the
pueden
first of a
llevar la
series of
idea que la arquitectura
buildings
cura y la
that will allow us
arquitectura
to
con el paisaje puede
convey a
ser
very clear
realmente
message.
una mejora
Architecture
en la vida de
cures,
todos.
and architecture and
Bueno, muchísimas
landscapism
gracias.
can entail an improvement in people's lives. Thank you very much for your very kind attention.
Bueno, aquí os damos la posibilidad de
So now you will have the
hacerle
opportunity
preguntas
to
a Benedetta.
ask questions to
¿Tenéis alguna
Benedetta.
pregunta que queréis
Shall there be
hacer ahora, es
any?
el momento?
It's the right time.
Aquí.
Hola, muchas gracias por la presentación.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I'll be very brief. I am working in the area of Sagrada Familia, and the last project you referred to, there was precisely an interaction between San Pao Hospital and Sagrada Familia. Could you perhaps give us a hint about your feeling regarding the environment, right? The neighborhood, Sagrada Familia, that can help us direct our project. Thank you very much. I've been informed about your project in Sagrada Familia, not an easy task, yet a lovely one. I believe that probably the best possible approach to Gaudí has to do with going back to the roots. It's a marvelous book. I've always loved it, and I've always felt, I mean, it's made me fall in love with Dalí again, Gaudí again. I found the book in Amazon, and it's worth going back to the Gaudí of the origins, the Gaudí who was at the ground, right, in the Sagrada Familia, interacting with farmers, and who would take pictures of them with mirrors, and would then rebuild them with ceramics. He was totally crazy. He was totally crazy. So going back to his studio, discovering his studio is an impressive experience. I've seen an exhibition in Menac by José La Huerta, and there were some things from this period, very lovely materials from Gaudí's atelier. And for me, this is the strongest possible connection with Gaudí, going back to his origins, to his craziness, and attaching it with our craziness. We like Gaudí because we are all a little bit crazy, right? And that's all I can tell you. But the image, right, is here, the interaction. When they were building San Pao Hospital, from far away you could see the Sagrada Familia indeed. Is there any other question?
Yo creo que es el primer día y todavía hay cierto,
Well, it's day one,
¿no? Cierto pudor.
so we are still a little bit shy.
Darte
Benedetta,
tantas gracias, ¿no?
thank you very much for being here.
por lo que nos has contado,
Thanks
¿no?
for coming to a lot. And thanks for
A mí
your
lo que me gusta, ¿no? Es
presentation.
cómo cuentas las
What
cosas
I
tú,
like
como desde ti
about
mismo,
you
¿no?
is
De cómo las sientes, de
your
cómo las has vivido,
approach,
¿no?
your very
Y
personal
todos estos
approach to
proyectos que nos has ido contando,
architecture
como
and all the
de la casa a
projects
lo
that you have
público, ¿no?
told
Casi
us
como desde
about,
esa
from the
intimidad,
house
desde
to the
esta manera
public
de entenderlo,
space,
¿no? Y
from
cómo esto lo
privacy to the
haces
public
como
space, right?
extensible, ¿no? Como
And
ofreciendo tu
how
casa
you
a
make this
todos, ¿no? La verdad es que
extensible
lo
to
encuentro
others,
como muy
offering your
bonito, ¿no?
home
Como
to others. It's
generoso,
very
¿no?
nice.
Por tu
It's very
parte.
lovely. It's actually very
Yo,
generous
bueno,
from
darte
you.
mucho las
So
gracias.
again, thanks. Thanks a
Gracias,
lot.
Karma.
Thank you, Karma. You are kind.
Bueno, igualmente te daría las gracias, ¿no? Yo creo
I would
que
like to also thank you,
realmente
Benedetta.
ver
I
muchos
believe
proyectos seguidos,
that
¿no? Es
many of
algo
your, I mean,
que es
seeing pictures
un
of many of
desborde de
your
creatividad.
projects
O sea, en este
is
sentido creo que hay
just
mucha relación con Gaudí,
a
evidentemente, el modernismo, ¿no? En que hay tantos fragmentos,
experience of
tantos
creativity.
puntos por observar y
So many
tantos
fragments,
espacios
so
por
many things
vivir
to
y en
observe,
definitiva un
so
poco
many
lo que hemos
spaces to
iniciado
inhabit,
hablando, ¿no?
and what we said
Yo
at the
diría
beginning,
el
right?
buscar la
Right?
belleza en todos ellos, ¿no?
The
Que
search,
esto,
the
claro,
quest
obviamente es
for beauty
difícil
in all
a
these
través de las
spaces.
imágenes, ¿no? Porque la belleza
Sometimes it's difficult to find
solo la
beauty in
podemos
pictures
percibir
only because
viviéndolo, ¿no?
beauty
Con
can
todo nuestro
only be
cuerpo, ¿no?
perceived if we
Pero
experience it
bueno, yo
with
creo
all
que se
our
percibe, no
senses.
sé, yo la verdad es que aparte de Cálida no he podido ver otra obra en vivo, ¿no? Y verdaderamente vuestra casa
The
me
only
encantaría
work,
verla, ¿no?
I would love to see
Porque,
your home.
Agradecido, ya invitación.
no, porque es
Well,
verdad,
you
se
are welcome, you are
perciben,
invited.
bueno, en los espacios realmente, claro, la fotografía ¿no? Es muy difícil que capte todo esto. También, bueno, así
Photography cannot capture all the
comentarios. A
nuances.
mí
Let
me
me
llama bastante la
share a
atención
few
este
comments. For me,
balcón
the
del
balcony
Parlamento, ¿no? Me gusta
of
mucho
the
esta ventana, ¿no?
Scottish
Me hace
Parliament is
pensar
very much interesting. It makes me think about,
com es diu, en les masies,
makes me think about the
els
Catalan
festejadors.
Qatar.
No sé, en catalán, digamos, hay en las masías unos
In
espacios al lado de la
Catalan
ventana
cottages,
que
there are
realmente también
little balconies near
visitas
the
uno
windows
frente al otro,
Sí,
¿no?
sí, sí.
where you sit
Y se llaman
down
los
one before
festejadors. Yo no sé
another.
si esto es
And in
algo
Catalan, they are called
realmente,
festejadors, like a
no
place
sé
where
de dónde
you
sale, si
somehow
es que es algo tradicional
flirt
aquí,
with
o supongo
others.
que debe estar en
Flirt
otros
with,
lugares. Pero en todo caso, digamos,
yeah,
esta
with another person,
ventana
right?
que da mucha
It's
intimidad
like
a
a
lo que decías del
window to
parlamentario,
its
como sentirse
privacy.
en un
Like you
espacio
said, right?
propio, ¿no? Digamos, para
MPs
trabajar
in
y
that
con luego
parliament,
pues una mirada
in their
al exterior
offices, they feel
con
like
esta
in a
cierta
private little
intimidad,
space.
¿no? Esto, bueno, pues también
Yeah.
haría falta vivirlo, ¿no? Y nada, yo acabaría diciendo pues una frase que también
I would like to close
últimamente
by
me es
sharing a
recurrente.
quote
Ahora nos
that
situamos en este tema de la
is very
belleza,
dear
¿no?
to me.
Que seguro que en tantos espacios
We
de
are
los que hemos
discussing
visto
about
la
beauty.
encontraríamos, porque no se
In
puede
many of the
explicar lo
places
que es
we've
la belleza,
seen,
¿no?
beauty will be
Son
found.
conceptos que
We
realmente
cannot
son difíciles de
say what
explicar.
beauty
Estos
is, right? It's
solamente se
difficult
pueden
to
sentir, ¿no? Y
express or
bueno, os
define
la
beauty.
cito.
Beauty can only be
Es
felt.
una
Okay,
frase de
here comes
Ramón
the
Tresset,
quote
que esto debe
by
ser de los años
Ramon
80,
Tresset,
cuando estudiábamos
back from the
en la Escuela de
80s,
Arquitectura en el
when
Vallés. Cada
we,
día
when I was a
oíamos
student in
Diálogos
Valles,
3, que se llamaba, que
day
era
after day we would listen
un
to
tiempo de música, ¿no?
Dialogue 3,
Y Ramón Tresset, cuando
which is a
acababa, siempre
musician, a
decía,
music tempo,
buscar
and
la
he would
belleza
always
es la
end by
única
saying, and I
protesta
quote,
que
"The
merece
quest
la
for
pena
beauty
en este
is the
asqueroso
only
mundo.
protest
Hasta
that
mañana.
is really worth in
Cada
this
día,
disgusting
digamos,
world. See you
oíamos esta
tomorrow."
misma
End of
frase.
quote.
Yo creo
So every
que
day
realmente esto
he would, let's say,
seguramente pues
end his
nos impregnó
lectures
de algo
with
en
this
esta
quote.
búsqueda muchas veces esquiva de
So
la belleza, ¿no? Pero que al final yo creo que todos tendemos a buscarla, ¿no?
interesting
Muchas
one. We
gracias,
all
Benedetta.
tend
Qué
to search
bonito,
for beauty.
Ramón. Es que
That's a
me parece
lovely
maravilloso lo que has
quote.
dicho de la
I
belleza.
think it's marvelous.
Puedo decir
I
una
think it's a
pequeña
marvelous
cosa, que
one. Let me
últimamente, hace
respond to
pocos
you,
días también,
if you allow
en
me.
Roma,
In Rome, a few days ago, I was given an award, probably thanks to the church, not an award. They asked me to access an academy, a secret academy inside the Rome Pantheon, and the entry is offered by the Pope. So the Pope allowed me to enter to this academy founded in 1548, and I think I'm the first woman, but they didn't realize that I've been described like an architect, in Spanish, male architect. It was impressive. The ceremony was very private. It was inside the Pantheon in Rome, which is a chapel between walls, a very tiny and narrow place, with a presence of 20 people maximum. And Cardinal Rabazzi was in charge of the speech, the right-hand side of the Pope. And I was about to cry during his speech, because the speech was about beauty, but beauty in its origin. He's a very cultivated man, and he made references to old languages. I said, I'm really sorry, because everything has been translated into good, the good shepherd, when in fact it's not the good shepherd, but the beautiful shepherd. And now there's no distinction between beauty and goodness, and the way he put it was impressive. So beauty is what attaches you to divinity. Marvelous, marvelous, and marvelous. Thank you very much. Indeed.
Bueno.
So yeah, we're gonna call it a day. Thank you very much.
Bueno, qué bien.